So let's sum up what we can say about the views of the United Kingdom on European integration. Since its entry into the European Economic Community in 1973, the views of the United Kingdom on European integration has been torn apart between two possibilities. Either they supported integration or they supported Euroscepticism. And all these hesitations have generated a very strong ambivalence. This ambivalence can appear through a lot of examples. First example, the fact that they have always supported economic integration rather than political integration. They have always been for the single market, for the development of economic exchanges, so they can say that they are for integration, but at the same time, they have always opposed political integration, so they are not really for integration. This is very ambivalent. A second aspect of this ambivalence is the fact that the United Kingdom has always supported the enlargement, which is a very nice, a very European project. The enlargement particularly towards the Eastern European countries like Poland, Czech Republic and so on, and in the years 2000 in the direction of Turkey too. Why did they support enlargement? For a lot of reasons, but particularly because an enlarged Europe, a Europe with more countries, is more difficult to govern. So it is less integrated, and it becomes difficult in an enlarged Europe to deepen the relationship between the countries. Another example of ambivalence is the fact that the British heads of state have always supported the idea of developing a relationship between independent and sovereign governments, what we call intergovernmentalism, rather than federalism. They prefer relationship between sovereign governments to the creation of common institutions, because common institutions would mean transfers of sovereignty from the countries to the European institutions, what we call federalism, like in the United States of America, for example. So they can say that they are for more European relationships between the countries, but they privilege intergovernmental relationships to federal relationships. So all this ambivalence have generated a lot of misunderstandings, and we can see all the reasons why there were so many hesitations, why there was so much ambivalence. First reason, a reason to support the idea of more integration for the British people. The first reason is the proximity of the United Kingdom, between the United Kingdom and the European Union. The proximity appears through the fact that there are a lot of British people living in Europe, particularly in France, in Normandy, in Limousin, in Dordogne, for example. Another aspect of this proximity is the tunnel between France and the United Kingdom, which was opened in 1993. Another reason to be for integration is the economic interest of the United Kingdom, because the European Union is a single market, a free trade zone, and it is very profitable for the British business. At the same time, the United Kingdom makes more than half of its exchanges with the European Union, so it is their interest to be part of this organization. Another aspect is the weakness of Great Britain. It may appear a little provocative to say that Great Britain is weak, but in fact Great Britain has lost a lot of its former power through decolonization. For example, it used to be the first colonial empire in the world, and the colonies were a very important aspect of the British power in the past, but it doesn't exist any longer now. And another aspect of the British weakness is the industrialization. And this is for these two reasons that Harold Macmillan, at the beginning of the 60s, had applied for the entry of his country into the European Economic Community, because he was aware that decolonization and deindustrialization had weakened his country, and that the United Kingdom needed a new project, and it could be the development of its trade with Europe. Last reason to be for integration, this is peace, because there are a lot of cultural exchanges between all the European countries, and particularly between England and the rest of Europe, thanks, for example, to the Erasmus program between the universities, the European universities. And since the Second World War, there has never been wars within Europe. It is the first time, this is the longest period of peace in European history. And we can say that the European integration has a responsibility in this stability. So there are a lot of reasons to be for integration when you are British, but at the same time there are also a lot of reasons to be very Eurosceptic. The first reason is something which concerns all the countries, nationalism. But nationalism is particularly original in the United Kingdom because England is an island. And there is another aspect of nationalism, which is the recent development of hostility towards immigration. It was the key argument, the key reason why a lot of people voted against European membership in the 2016 referendum. Another reason to be Eurosceptic is the deep attachment of British people to their sovereignty. It appears through the fact that Great Britain is aware to be a very developed democracy, an exemplary democracy, whereas the European Union is more a bureaucracy. And a symbolic aspect of this sovereignty is the rebate Margaret Thatcher had negotiated on the contribution, the financial contribution of the United Kingdom to the European budget. It was in the 80s, and this rebate represents a lot of money and it symbolizes the British financial sovereignty. Third reason to support Euroscepticism is what we call the Atlanticism. The Atlanticism is the attachment of the United Kingdom to its special relationship to the United States of America beyond the Atlantic Ocean. There has always been a historical solidarity between the two countries, particularly during the two world wars, of course. And today, Great Britain is the first European trading partner of the United States. Finally, last reason to be Eurosceptic, it's the economic dynamism of Great Britain. In fact, Great Britain is dynamic, and a lot of people consider that it's not thanks to Europe, that it is thanks to the modernization they have undertaken, particularly in the 80s, and that it is thanks to the development of their financial activities in the city. And Boris Johnson today has the project of making Great Britain a tax haven in order to take advantage of all the financial exchanges of Europe and to make the London Stock Exchange a very important place to attract all the capitals. particularly if it is out of the European Union, to be free from the rules of regulation of finance, which could be organized by the European Union. So there are a lot of reasons to be for integration, and at the same time a lot of reasons to be Eurosceptic. So Great Britain is torn apart between these two possibilities, and that's why it has always had an ambivalent view on the European integration. But this ambivalence, this misunderstanding is not sustainable on the long term. And finally, the Brexit, the 31st January 2020, was the logical consequence of this long misunderstanding.